Every epic anime has a foundation, a history stretched for centuries. But what if the story we were told in the series is incomplete? What if the true origin of the legendary conflict is hidden in a forgotten era, one that secretly influences everything you thought you understood? This is the story of Frieren, but not the one you know. This is the genesis of her world, a chronicle of the ages that unfolded long before she ever met Himmel the hero. Our story begins over 1,000 years before the first episode, in an age of myths, when the world was younger and magic was a force of untamed nature. In this era, the goddess of creation was a tangible presence, her existence shaping the very fabric of reality. It was a time when her power was openly manifested, leaving behind monuments imbued with her divine magic, artifacts that would lie dormant for millennia. But this age of peace was not to last. From the shadows, a new race emerged into human history, the demons. Governed by a philosophy alien to mankind, they were predators who learned to perfectly mimic human language and emotion, not for understanding, but as a tool for the hunt. And for over 1,000 years, they were all united under a single, terrifying ruler, the Demon King. This entity, clad in impenetrable armor, was an anomaly. While most demons were individualistic, he fostered order and commanded absolute loyalty, uniting his kind into a devastating army. The Demon King's goal was a twisted form of coexistence, one he pursued through mass slaughter, believing it was the only way to truly understand humanity. His campaign began in earnest, sweeping across the continent and reducing humanity's influence by a third. One of his first strategic orders was a calculated act of genocide, the complete annihilation of the elves. He perhaps recognized the threat their long lives and magical affinity posed to his dominion. Entire elven villages were erased from existence. In one such village lived a young Frieren, already a prodigy with immense magical power. When the Demon King's forces, led by the general Basalt the Throne, descended upon her home, she was the sole survivor, managing to defeat the general herself before collapsing. It was here that her path crossed with one of history's most pivotal figures, the great human mage, Flam. Rescuing the young elf, Flam took Frieren as her apprentice, beginning a tutelage that would shape the future of magic and the fate of the world. Flame was the founder of humanity's magic. She taught Frieren the single most important tactic for fighting demons: to forever conceal her mana, to deceive the deceivers, to appear weak when she was anything but. It was a lesson born from 1,000 years of conflict. Flam's own master was another living legend, the elven archmage Ciri. Flam brought Frieren to meet her, and while Ciri was impressed by the young elf's power, she was disappointed by her simple, almost hobby-like devotion to magic, rather than a quest for ultimate power. Yet Flame had absolute faith. She predicted that Frieren would one day desire to understand humans, and more importantly, that she would be the one to bring about the era of peace by defeating the Demon King, a feat even Ciri could not accomplish. As the war raged on, the Demon King fortified his command. He established a council of his most powerful demon mages, generals who would become humanity's greatest threat, the 7 Sages of Destruction. These were demons whose magic surpassed human understanding. Figures like Macht of the Golden Land, whose curse could transmute anything into indestructible gold, and Grausum the Miraculous, a master of illusion. But above even the 7 sages was the Demon King's most trusted confidant, Schlacht the Omniscient. A demon with the terrifying ability to see up to 1,000 years into the future, he was the grand strategist of the demon army. For centuries, humanity seemed to be on a path to extinction. Heroes rose and fell, their efforts valiant but ultimately futile against the organized might of the demon race. The Northern Lands, in particular, became a blood-soaked graveyard of hope. But then, a new champion emerged, a man who would become a legend whispered in taverns for decades to come. He was known only as the hero of the South, and he was, for a time, the single strongest human alive. In a single year, he single-handedly decimated the Demon King's front lines, carving a path of destruction through their forces. His strength was so immense that the Demon King considered him a greater threat to demonkind than anyone else. The hero of the South also possessed a secret, a power that rivaled even Schlacht's. He too could see the future. Roughly a decade before Himmel's journey would begin, he sought out Frieren, knowing she was destined for greatness. He asked her to join him, but he already knew she would refuse. He had foreseen it. He told her of his own impending death, fated to occur in 1 year's time. And he told her of her own future, that a young hero named Himmel would soon seek her out, and with him she would finally defeat the Demon King. His prophecy was absolute. The Demon King, seeing the threat the hero of the South posed, dispatched his greatest assets. Shlak the Omniscient gathered all 7 sages of destruction to confront this single human. The battle was cataclysmic, a clash of foresight and overwhelming power. The hero of the South, knowing his fate, fought without restraint. He successfully slew 3 of the 7 sages before his final confrontation. In the end, as predicted, the hero of the South and Shlak the Omniscient took each other out. The hero's body was never found, likely consumed by demons, but his sacrifice crippled the Demon King's command structure for decades. He blazed a trail to the future, just as he promised Frieren he would. Even if his name and deeds were largely forgotten by history, his actions created the opening, the possibility for the next generation of heroes to succeed. And so, the stage was set. With the Demon King's clairvoyant gone and his sages weakened, the balance of power had shifted. The 1,000-year war was entering its final act. All that was needed was a hero with an unwavering, almost foolish, sense of optimism, and an elven mage who was just beginning her long journey to understand humanity.